Hi, everybody. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jasmina from Jasmina Brozovic Astrology. Today, I have a special guest with me, Sam Reynolds, the astrologer, the writer, the educator, the teacher, the publicist, the preacher, and the teacher, and many different things, lovely things. I don't know if he needs more of introduction. He's a president of International Astrology Education, I think, Forum, you will tell us, and many other things. You were president of ISAR, International Society for Astrological Research.
I wasn't president.
You were not a president? I'm sorry. Okay.
I was just a board member.
Okay, a board
yes.
member. Okay. Mm-hmm. I know you were a huge part of astrological community, helping astrologers in the entire world. So welcome, Sam, and thank you so much for coming and taking your time today to share your story, which I feel it's fascinating. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm good, Jasmina. How are you?
Very good, very good. I had a rough week, but today is nice. I love Fridays, Venus days, to connect with others and share their stories. So reason I have Sam today, because his story is very fascinating, and I wanted for him to share his story from skeptic to professional astrologer, for preaching one thing to preaching, teaching another thing. I like to play on words with teach, preach. I think it's fascinating. So Sam, how did it all start for you? How did you even? Where is the question? Actually, is what is the passion to prove astrology wrong?
That's an interesting question. So I will go back because you want to hear the story. I'm not going to give you the whole story because I don't want to take the full hour. But it really starts with my birthday. And I don't mean on my birthday, but meaning my birthday is November 22nd. It is, my solar return is next Friday. But my birthday is on the 22nd. And that is the day in 1967 when I was born, when the sun does move into Sagittarius. So I was always confused when I would read books that my parents had, whether I was a Scorpio like my older brother, or a Sagittarius, like his wife, actually. And so I think where my skepticism of astrology starts is with confusion on what was I. And it just became permutations of that. So as you mentioned, I went into the ministry when I was 12 years old, the Christian ministry, evangelical Christianity, more so from the Baptist tradition.
Okay.
I'm hearing some static. I don't know if that's coming from my end or yours.
I don't hear anything.
Okay, good. I just hope it's not coming through. And I hope folks are not disturbed by it. But anyway, so anyway, I went into the ministry, and those who are familiar with evangelical Christianity, astrology is frowned upon. So it became clear to me, like, okay, well, I don't have to worry about that anymore. So people would ask me, like, well, what sign are you? And I would say, I'm the sign of the cross, because I don't have to believe in the zodiac and astrology. So I even preached against astrology at one point. I have one of my sermons where I actually preached against astrology and the zodiac. But really, I would say that because I was confused. And then when I left the ministry, and left Christianity because I was skeptical about religion. I was learning something different about religion once I got to college. And I had some questions, and no one really could answer them for me at the time. I started believing more in terms of race, gender, and class. And that's when I went to graduate school, and I was an atheist at the time. And I encountered someone who really believed in astrology. A woman who I had a crush on, an older woman who became my friend, but didn't indulge in my crush. A Gemini, and she, Geneva, and she was, very kind to me, but she was into astrology, and she was like, well, I think you're a Scorpio. And I said, if I have to choose between being the arachnid, the bug, or being the centaur, clearly I'm a centaur. She's like, no, I think you're the bug.
That's funny.
I happened to find an astrologer. I wasn't looking for an astrologer. I was looking for a book, and he happened to be a bookseller. And he said, "Have you had your chart done?" And I was like, "No." And I really wasn't interested. But then he was like, "Well, it might be good for you to have your chart done and learn more about things." And I was like, but then a light bulb went on. I was like, "Oh, I can shut Geneva up, and she'll know I'm the centaur." So I was like, "Sure, I'll get it done." And I got a reading. And Jasmina, for the first 15 minutes of it, I just thought it was BS because he wasn't telling me anything that you couldn't deduce from looking at me. He was like, "Oh, it looks like you're smart." And I was like, "Yeah, I told you." I didn't say this, but in my head, I was like, "I told you I was in grad school. Chances are I'm not an idiot." And then he said, "Well, it looks like maybe you had some birth challenges, growing up." And I was like, and you met me. I'm like, I'm 4'11". Chances are something went wrong. I mean, I'm not an average size for a man. But I'm just thinking this in my head. So I'm just like, is this astrology? Is this what you guys do? Oh, God. But then he said, well, and then he also said, "Oh, you're a Scorpio." And I was like, okay, I already hate this. And but then he said, "Well, something happened between your mother and your brother and your father when you were in utero, and it may have complicated your pregnancy." Now, I learned that exact story just 2 months before. And so I was like, "How do you know that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's right here." And he got all avuncular and looking at my chart. He's like, "You look at your Mercury." And I was like, none of this makes sense. And so I was like, okay, this is strange, because I had been to a lot of different readings, mainly for fun or mainly for curiosity, but none as particular as that or specific. And the thing that clinched more of my interest, I'll tell this one part of the story, is I was talking to another person in my graduate school housing. I don't know why. I don't think I've interacted with her much before. And she, I mentioned that I had seen an astrologer, and she's like, "Oh, I'm into astrology." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And on a lark, I asked her, "Well, when's your birthday?" And she said, "Oh, November 22nd. November 22nd when? November 22nd, 1967. We were born the exact same day."
What?
So I was like, that's uncanny and strange. So I was like, something's going on. I was like, well, maybe I can borrow some books from you. And so that's when I started reading books. And I felt the need to have to look at astrology for myself because I thought there was a trick to it. So I spent 10 years even looking at charts, looking for the trick to figure out, like, what was this? How did that astrologer figure out, things related to my family? And then I ended up an astrologer. So that's kind of more, the big story. The skepticism was more the confusion and trying to understand, how did it work? What is astrology? That was really what baffled me.
Yeah, well, I like that you were open to take time to actually learn about it, because most skeptics are just opinionated.
They're lazy
without even
and lazy.
Yeah. Lazy. I like that. So I know, because you're coming from this religion background, I most of us are from one religion or the other, in one way or the other. And what do you think? Why is that such a passion to dismiss astrology within religions? Is it fear? Is it like, why can we just say, okay, we are blending this together? It's both spiritual work. What do you think? Why is this it's like, as you said, you also preached against it. So it's like so hard to accept that astrology exists. Why do you think it's that?
I think there's a part of it that's healthy. I think there's a part that's unhealthy. So let me first say what is healthy about religion's avoidance of astrology. The healthy part is, on some level, if you're talking about an afterlife, your soul, and its alignment with salvation, if you're a Christian, or alignment in, if you're a Muslim, alignment with Allah. Astrology, in fact, I believe the Prophet Muhammad said something like this related to divination. He said, some measurements irrelevant. So when I say irrelevant, it's like if you're talking about the full nature of your soul beyond this mortal coil, that isn't the province of astrology. We're not necessarily talking about, quote unquote, your next life or your life related to heaven or hell. On some level, what's healthy is like it is irrelevant. And nothing should supplant your faith in the divine if you're, a Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew, right? Mm-hmm. So your ultimate rock is going to be related to what you worship. Mm. So I think on that level, I think it's healthy. And you're like, well, why is it healthy? Because some people who embrace astrology come to live also in fear. You mentioned fear. Mm-hmm. So they may use astrology as a means of kind of buying more into their fears than their faith. Mm. And so it's like, oh, Saturn's going to get me. Saturn's a planet. Why do you think it's going to get you? And where's your faith in God? Right? So I think there is a healthy aspect to it. The unhealthy aspect of it is not seeing astrology as the tool and the grace that it is in observing the heavens. I remind Christians, I'm like, okay, who were the first people who sought out Jesus? Well, it was the Magi. And what were they using? Stars. Okay. So stars can be used in order to kind of search things on Earth. And that's the basis of astrology.
Yeah.
Then also in Islam, observing the heavens and the times for things, even in the Quran, it talks about these are things for us to consider and to work with and consider and contemplate in these mysteries, relate to sitting with them. Again, not out of fear and not out of thinking they control us, but they are in dialogue with us, or that the divine is also in dialogue with us. And one of the ways in which the divine speaks to us is also through what happens in the heavens. So I think many, like the lazy skeptics I was just talking about, haven't really looked into the nature of astrology itself and go just by what they think it is. Whereas with the Abrahamic religions, astrology is the basis of it. Abraham himself came out of a star-gazing tradition and people. The people of Ur, the Chaldeans. Mm-hmm. And even when in the Bible, in Genesis, when God says to Abraham, your children will be as plentiful as what's in the heavens, the reason why God does that, Hashem does that, Adonai, is to point out, like, I know you know the stars, right? Mm-hmm. And so he's giving him a vision related to what he knows. And so I think the elements of faith in dialogue with what we see in the heavens is something that could be complementary in religion or with religion. I don't think you have to be against astrology to be with religion, and I don't think you have to be against religion itself to be with astrology.
I like that.
A lot of astrologers are either de facto atheists, I'll get to that in a second, or they become anti-religion. Mm-hmm. And I've heard many people, astrologers say, like, well, that's why I don't like organized religion. And it's a weird statement to me. Mm-hmm. It's a weird statement because I'm like, you have something against organized religion? What about organized politics or organized education or any other aspect of organized life? Mm-hmm. Because organized religion does press us to participate or be participatory in community and holding ourselves responsible to an ethos and to an ethic that's larger than ourselves. Now, again, there are negative aspects to religion, of course, but I also know there can be negative aspects to people who say, well, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. And you ask them, okay, so what's the ethos that guides your spirituality? Well, I go with my intuition. And sometimes these are the most unethical people. They do all kinds of things, but like they're spiritual. So I'm not proselytizing any particular religion. I'm not. But I'm not anti-religion. I'm a humanist at bottom, if I had to talk about my ideology. But I've been a Christian. I've been a Muslim. I've observed them. I'm no longer angry at Christianity. When I left, I was angry. I've been deceived, but I see that there's a higher story, and that's what astrology has given me. There's a bigger story that's being told throughout the year. As we're about to go into Christmas, we have the Advent, and that has some astrological marker. We have astrological markers for Christmas. 3 days after the solstice. And then we also have astrological markers for Easter in the Christian sensibility. In Islam, we have it related to the relationship between the sun and the moon, for Ramadan and different aids and different things.
Yeah.
So there's a story being told. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you.
No, I was just listening to you, and I'm trying as well with wisdom and age, and with just getting more knowledge. To also be less judgmental and opinionated myself, because we have a tendency, because it's like a defense mechanism. If I'm for this, I'm against this, and then we have to. So as I'm getting older and learning about people and different things in life, I really try. Maybe I'm just very utopia-like person, but I would like us all to blend. Like I love the diversity. As long as we have good intentions. I love that we have many different astrologies, many different religions, many different people. I think that's the beauty of it. Imagine we were all like robots are coming. So, we will, without this other part. Anyway, that's a new story. But so do you believe, like, just when you're looking at the future, do you believe that we can blend all these things together? Do you think that we will be more open-minded, maybe with this Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius, to go above all this and like find a new common place for astrology and other spiritual, religious practices?
That's a good question. I don't know if I can. I think it will take time. I think it may take centuries. I don't know if I can sequester to Pluto and Aquarius during its 20 years. I don't know if I can allocate that to Uranus and Gemini in 7 years. But what I do have faith in is that when we go through certain tribulations and trials like wars, I think, especially depending on the level of devastation that we may have to endure, I think we still come out better. And you might say, like, well, why do we have to do that to kind of do that? I don't know. I mean, it may be something that is part of our evolution, but that seems to be what has happened. You and I was talking before the start. We were talking about what was happening in the Balkans, and specifically in Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia, and that, when the Berlin Wall fall and we're coming up on the Saturn return of that.
Yeah.
With these larger cycles, I mean, even though it's now splintered into 7 different countries or multiple countries, I think, and there was a war immediately following that, a very catastrophic war. I think the countries are doing better, as I understand it now, right? And I think sometimes we have to go through these fractures in order to get to a new stability. Is it going to be more of a unified sensibility in terms of a religion or whatever? Perhaps. So Islam, when it surfaced, became a unifying factor, not just under the auspices of Islam, but more so bringing people together who hadn't been together, right? As going from, what we now call Saudi Arabia all the way up into the Iberian Peninsula and into Africa. And it brought lots of different exchange. Similar thing happened during the rise of Christendom before that. and then after that, in terms of the rise of Europe. So religion, even the word coming, means that bringing together. So religion can be a way of bringing people together, and then with each iteration of a religion or religious thought, something organic happens, something blending happens. So the scale of it, I'm not sure. The thing that's brought us together most recently isn't a religion, it's the World Wide Web, it's technology.
That's right.
So that's maybe it's something else that helps bring us together.
So do you feel this conjunction with Neptune and Saturn in 0 degrees Aries that will be in end of February? Is this significant in a way?
It's very significant.
Mm-hmm. So what do you feel? I know you're in US, and I see there's a fraction coming. We don't have to talk about politics, but I think it's reflecting as well. Sometimes as you said, sometimes things need to be fractured to work better. So is there a connection? What do you?
Saturn Neptune conjunctions historically bring some measure of dissolution of structures. It's a dissolution that leads. I think we went through that Saturn Neptune conjunction in Capricorn, and it led to the dissolution of what we know as, the Soviet bloc.
Yeah, the world order. Sorry, the world order as we knew it. There was like a Cold War. There was there was a world order. Like it was literally who is in charge. Yeah.
So I think we're going toward another reconciliation of world order, and we already can see the aspects of it. So at the dissolution of that world order, it became clear that the United States, my country, emerged as the sole single superpower. And what I think we may see is that there may be some way in which the United States doesn't maintain that sovereignty. And that's becoming clear. I just read in the news today that there's a super carrier that the Chinese have developed that, because they didn't have that multiple carrier or super carrier power that the United States had or has in the Pacific area. Now the Chinese do have it, right? And so there may be challenges to how, speaking on the political level. Now, you may be asking that more on the spiritual level or more on the religious level, or well, I think people are going to be looking more for a different aspect of foundation. It's interesting that with the dissolution of the Soviet bloc in the 1989, 90, what we see in short order, within 5 years, is something called the creation of the World Wide Web. So maybe there's some percolation of a new technology or new sets of interest that starts to crop up, around the time that we have the Saturn-Neptune conjunction.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. So how do you, what do you feel and think is going to be the place of astrology in that new world order, let's say, that it's coming? The role of astrology. What would be the role, let's say?
Well, that people will give more consideration to astrology and understanding themselves. It will become more part of, especially among young people, it will become, just as we talked about pop psychology, as when we were growing up. Now, I know I'm a little older than you, but I mean, as we talk about the 90s, or we could talk about, even some measure of the 80s, it was pop psychology, things like biorhythm. There are all kinds of different tools, and I think it becomes part of the roster of tools, or a key roster of tools for people to use to understand themselves, understand other people. I also think AI and technology will become formidable in people seeking that understanding. my interest is more related to, you mentioned I'm the president of the International Coalition of Astrology Educators. My interest is more related to providing suitable education, quality education for people seeking to know astrology, because a lot of people are going online and seeking astrological information from people who haven't really studied astrology, people who have just basically have been devouring information that might have some astrology, but they don't really know the full scope of astrology. One of the things that I've come to learn, starting off as a skeptic, still having some measure of skepticism, not so much about astrology, but astrologers. That's, like I said, we can get more into that. But one of the things I've learned in having that skepticism is that, as you were talking about, or we were just talking about related to religion, there's so many different forms of astrology, astrologies, we could call it, right? And these various forms of astrology, people don't know how to keep them distinct or how to blend them. And so they just either make up things or they don't really understand things. And I think it'll be important for astrology educators to come together, have more some level of standards and competencies, so that we're more on the same page. Not that we all have to agree. That's not what we're looking for. But we can agree on some of the things that we do agree about. The North Node is the northern intersection point between the moon and the imaginary orbit of the sun. We can agree on that. And then we can agree on what some of those things might mean. Not all of the meanings, but we can agree on some of them. The more that we arrive at points of convergence rather than divergence, I think it's better for the communities involved in astrology and also for the people seeking out astrology. Contrary to what many people say, oh, it's going to be AI and you'll be able to ask AI anything, related to astrology. I think people lose sight of the intuitive aspects, the symbolic, aspect, the living aspects of astrology. The living aspect of astrology is how it's come alive in your life. AI can't tell you that.
That's right.
It can't tell you, like, so for instance, I came to astrology during my second Jupiter return. So I can give us, like I did, some measure of my story and how the Jupiter return came into my life. AI might be able to tell me some measure of the mechanics, but it can't tell me how I lived that experience. Yeah. I also think AI is going to run into a problem. It's going to run into a problem because it takes a tremendous amount of energy to maintain AI, including a tremendous amount of water, and we're running out of water. And so my concern is, like, how are we going to build a sustainable technology? It seems fun until, you can't give your kid water.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's coming sooner than later.
Correct.
Yeah, because it's exponentially, like the technology goes like this. It's not, and population also goes like this. So, so it's connected.
So when you're looking at those two things in those curves, right, you realize, like, how does it become sustainable?
Yeah, interesting topics. I could just put me in another realm. When you talk about astrologers, and I know there's also talk about, if we need to be certified, do we lose magic? On the other hand, we need to kind of, we want to present ourselves as somebody who are competent for the public. Do you think we need a pledge, like the oath doctors do? Like, I swear to be an honest astrologer. And do you think we need that in one way or another?
Do we need it?
Yeah.
No. No. I think I'm more passionate about competencies in education. But the reason why I say we don't need it is because on some level, making it mandatory or making a mandate, we don't have the power to enforce it. And the power to enforce it rests largely on the level of provinces in your country, states in my country. So, for instance, to say you're a therapist, you do need to be certified and licensed to be a therapist. And that's because there's a sanctioning body to do that. Right now, we don't have a sanctioning body in astrology. However, the benefit of being certified or even having a pledge is twofold at least. The benefit of it is, with most of these organizations, OPA, ISAR, NCGR, there are exams or there are particular qualifications that you need to fulfill, and it helps you round out your education. It helps you become instructed in what you don't know. We often don't know what we don't know. And so the certification process will highlight what you don't know and where you need to fill in the gaps in your education. So I do always encourage people to look into certification, not because they need it, but because they can benefit from it.
Absolutely.
The other benefit of it is what I was talking about related to spirituality, is what holds you accountable. And so belonging to an astrological organization, abiding by the ethics codes of ISAR or NCGR, or at least knowing what they are, when you break those and someone is offended or even hurt by your breakage of them, they can hold you accountable. Like, oh, you said you were going to send this report and you promised and it's a year later and I've never received this report. That's an ethical infraction. And so someone could go, like if you're a member of ISAR and you brag about, like, I'm a certified astrologer through ISAR, they can go to CAP ISAR or ISAR and say, like, look, this person basically has denied me or frauded me of what they said they were going to do. And then there can be a mediation process. I think that's important, because otherwise you could say, like, I pledge blah 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 and not abide by any of those rules, and nothing keeps you abiding by them. And that's one of the challenges right now in the astrological field. Like, there's nothing that mandates your ethical compliance.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of things people come and hear, and they, different approaches, different things, and they, I know. See, my mind goes so deep when you talk so nicely. I'm already thinking about other things, but it would be nice to kind of, I know we talk about the Kepler Symposium, and I was thinking, I see astrologers from all around the world living in their own bubbles. I know it's hard, to get us all together, different cultures, different. And what do you feel about that? How do you think maybe this will come together in one way or another? Like, there's some traditions, some countries have traditions, like England has a tradition, and India on the other side had their own tradition. Some countries don't. So what do you feel?
I think it's happening more and more. I mean, my hope with the organization for which I'm president is that that we are facilitating more of a conversation about coming up with competencies between different branches of astrology, different schools of astrology, so that if I get my diploma from the School of Traditional Astrology started by Deborah Holding, it has some weight when I go to Kepler. Or when I finish Chris Brennan's Hellenistic Astrology course, it has some weight with the School of Traditional Astrology or the Faculty for Astrological Studies. Or that if I finish my degree with FAS, that it has some measure of weight related to NCGR's levels. in terms of their certification program, so that there can be more cross-fertilization, and eventually even in terms of the level of education that happens in India. Like you mentioned India, with Vedic astrology, there are people who get PhDs in Vedic astrology, but they come to the United States and they may be very schooled in their astrology, but they come to the United States or go elsewhere or go to England and like, look, no, you have to go through my program, and they, and it's kind of like, well, this person knows astrology, a different form of astrology, right? But we don't facilitate that level of convergence.
Yeah,
and
I mean
conferences. I hope we continue with the conferences now that we're meeting in person again, but also hybrids. That's great now that that's something that's a gift from COVID, and the shutdowns, the lockdowns that we experienced, where people who are shut in can also attend these conferences via Zoom or other things. So there are good things that are happening.
Yeah, and what I feel that not everybody's for everything. Some people just like to have clients. Some people like to do research, the client work, research work. There's a lot of fields within the astrology that you can explore and do things. Not everybody has to do everything. That's another thing that I feel like, when you say you're an astrologer, people assume that you know everything about everything, which is also a wrong assumption. So my big question is,
unless you're Jasmina.
Yeah, no. Oh, for trivia quiz, I know what you're going. I should have said lobsters. I was anyway. I'm still thinking about it till today. It was on my tip of my tongue.
I just want to say, so for the listeners and viewers.
Okay.
So Jasmina was a competitor in a trivia contest that we had at the Kepler Symposium, and she did remarkably well. She made it through 4 or 5 rounds, and then she went head to head with Patrick Watson.
Yeah.
Patrick Watson is the president of CAP ISAR, very knowledgeable, very learned astrologer. And I mean, even though Patrick's my good friend, I was rooting for Jasmina because I was like, I want someone different. How about a woman? It's like, let's go different. But she was very close. But what she demonstrated is that she has immense knowledge about all the different aspects of astrology, which a lot of astrologers don't. Many just know what they know related to their form of astrology, but you showed your breadth of knowledge. So that was admirable.
I consider myself as a messenger, but I don't go into depth. So I still have to go into the depth in some of these things, right? So I consider myself a messenger and a connector, and I love quizzes. Thank you. I'm with Gemini that way.
You did well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your support. You were so kind. My big question is, so we as an astrologers, what do you feel and think should we present ourselves to the public? Because of the assumption of what astrology is, because of all these different types of astrologies, because of the people having different expectations of an astrologer, what do you feel is maybe the best approach? What should be our tagline in everybody's websites, or for people to know what to expect? I know it's a hard question, but
it is a hard question because I try. I'm no longer a preacher, so I don't have a gospel to preach for everyone to adhere to, right?
No, we are just exchanging ideas. We are exchanging ideas.
I know.
But I'm really curious to know what you think.
Well, generally, I don't know if it's a tagline for everybody, but what I generally think should inform whatever an astrologer does is care. Yeah. Care for human beings. And the reason why I say that is that there's a good number of astrologers who care more about being right than showing love, and showing care and compassion. And what I find distressing about that is that they're really more invested through their astrology about proving, the nature of their intellect, the nature of what they can do or what they see, rather than the care. And care means not lying to the person, but thinking about with some measure of empathy and counseling skills, especially if you're going to be a counseling astrologer, on how you might feel. Like there are astrologers who say like, yeah, you missed the boat, your destiny, you didn't grab it when you should have. Like I've heard that from some astrologers. I've heard, well, it's not like you're going to live long anyway, right? Or some other dimensions of things where we think, and I've even had an astrologer say this to me, astrology allowed him, per his thoughts, to see into the mind of God, which I was like, you're bona fide insane. And it was interesting because he said that, but he was someone who was a squatter. Like he would find homes and squat in them. And so he ended up in a newspaper along with his partner and arrested for squatting. And so I'm like, you could see into the mind of God, but you couldn't stop from being arrested. Oh, okay. Right. So I think some astrologers get caught up in the power of it, not realizing that the power is there as a measure of care and looking after other people and after ourselves. So that is where we go back to ethics. Mm-hmm. I think that's also when we're aware of power dynamics and sensitivities. And what I mean by power dynamics is like, a beautiful woman, if you're a man, a beautiful woman comes to you for counseling. She is not someone you should be hitting on, sir. Right? That's not, there's a power differential there. Like, well, she's an adult. I'm an adult. Well, why can't I ask her out? Because you just tried to give her advice and life course information. Yeah. But a lot of people don't think about that. So I think it becomes important to think about the ethics, or, we start saying sensational things without, like, oh, this Mercury retrograde, you're going to have to watch out. It's going to be a whole different mess. Blah, blah. I'm like, well, it's going to be for some people. Some people may live their lives as if nothing else has happened. So there's a way in which we also try to function like CNN. My good friend and our colleague, I don't know if you know him, Colin Bedell, he was just talking about this on his
Instagram, IG. Right? Yeah, I listened to it. It was really, really deep.
Yeah, where, a lot of astrologers don't have a good relationship with uncertainty. And so by virtue of not having a good relationship with uncertainty, they really will push more the certainty, like, well, I know this is what this means. And I know it's going to mean this. And not be accountable for it. I mean, we all make mistakes. Yeah, I've made a mistake even most recently, right? In terms of, what I thought might happen with the Mars South Node conjunction. Wasn't half as serious as I thought it would be. But okay. I mean, I'm glad it wasn't half as serious as I thought it would be. But I also went online and talked about it. Because, we have to be responsible for how we affect people. And I think that is what astrologers need to be aware of. You affect people, how you're talking to them. Yeah. Do it with some measure of care.
Yeah, very well said. I have my brother's words actually in my head. He was actually a news anchor in Croatia on the national TV and the primetime news. And before his first time, when he went, it's like 7:00 news, like he told me, I'm so scared. I am responsible for like 1.5 million people are going to watch me tonight. And they're going to base their judgment and opinions based on what I say. And I'm so scared, such a huge responsibility. And I always have that when I talk to somebody, even I talk online, like do my astro tip, or when somebody's going to listen and have an opinion based on what I say.
Yeah.
So that's what you're saying as well. And so thinking about that, what effects have your choice of words and the way you say it. And at the end, we are all humans, and we are also going through ups and downs, and lives happen to us. We can't be always, and I don't expect that. That's another thing I want to talk to you about. I know competition is everywhere, right? People, we always look at our peers and, trying to do something. I see that as inspiration, not as competition, as at least I try it. But what is that urge and need that I find in astrology, among astrologers, that everybody wants to be unique? Like, oh, I have to say something different than the other. Look, Mars is Mars. Mars is is a planet of action. Like, yes, there is other way, but why do you feel there's an urge to be different, special? And if you don't provide that, you're not kind of worthy, or you're not going to be seen. So what do you think? I know it's a psychological question, but I just want to address it, because I don't think we need to be as, I don't know. What do you feel about it?
I don't believe in competition among astrologers. The reason why I don't believe in competition is the truth is multifold. And one way you could look at it, I go back to, I don't know if there's something like this, in Croatia or even in Canada where you live, but in New York, there was something called Jewelers Row. And Jewelers Row was literally a street where it was just a line of different jewelers that you could go to. And, the cool thing about Jewelers Row is that you could go between shops to find what you're looking for or do what you want to do, whether you're selling something or an heirloom or whatever. And the good thing is that I observed among them is that, being in one central place, they're not thinking like, well, why don't you go somewhere else? I am, whoever. Because the great thing about being in one central location is then it makes it easier for people to kind of shop around. They don't think of themselves as like, oh, having to be the only one. And what I think about with astrologers is like, you may be the choice for someone one year as they get a solar return reading, but the choice might come to me the next year or someone else. They may listen to Colin one day, or even same day, listen to what I have to say. And so we have to get out of this scarcity mentality and realize that there's always enough to go around. Now, to your question about, well, what about finding our sense of uniqueness? Well, I don't think uniqueness can be found truly in competition. I think uniqueness has to be found through contemplation. What do you feel tapped into? What really excites you? And by virtue of your excitement and interest in it, it is going to be unique and probably different from what someone else might say, because it's coming from you.
Yeah.
So I think, I always say to people, I'm looking for a piece of paper. I'll try to find something right quick as an illustration. Let me get a piece of paper here. One of the things that we can do, I always illustrate with this. I'm drawing a line on a sheet of paper.
Okay.
Right?
I love it.
So there's a line on a sheet of paper. Let me ask you, how would I shorten this line?
What do you mean? You can erase it?
How would I make this line short? I can erase it? Okay, let's say I erase it. What else can you do?
Oh, you can fold the paper in two.
I can fold the paper in two. What else can I do?
I don't know. I have no ideas at the moment. That's it.
Good. All right. So the thing is, you also can lengthen your own line.
Oh, make another one bigger. I love it.
Right. So the real truth, rather than spending any time to shorten someone else's line, you can always lengthen your own. And you can lengthen your own by the full demonstration of your talents, of your gifts, of what you have to give, and be committed to that. But a lot of people will think competitively and think like, oh, I got to match this person. The more that you get into trying to match someone else, the more you're losing yourself.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, there's so many things we can talk about, but I think we're already 15 minutes in. I don't want to spend more time. This is so beautiful. I have so many questions for you. We should do like this in different, each month, one to continue. Let's wrap it up. So I know you are part of a lot of these organizations, and you want to help astrology and astrologers. So just summary of what you do and why do you think that's important, and how can we help you? Tell us first that, please.
Okay, wow. Well, I'm a teacher. Some of the things you said, I'm a teacher, a writer. I am also a consulting astrologer. I believe in getting involved in organizations because I believe in being the change we want to see. And a lot of people complain and say this doesn't do this or blah. But I believe, you also have to be part of the solution, not just the problem. And the opportunity that organizations provide beyond growth, like I grew in my 9 years being an ISAR and being on ISAR's board. I got to understand. A lot of people avoid politics, and I understand that. And when we talk about politics, we think about it only as, in my country, Democrat and Republican, or conservative and liberal. But politics is being able to also advance an agenda for some things that you care about. Like I care more about diversity. We were talking about diversity. So that does mean that you have to get involved in some political level. So some of the organizations and things I've done, I've been involved with NORWAC. Now I think I'm going toward my 12th year this year with their diversity scholarship. Thanks to Laura Nalbandian and Nicholas Polimenakos. Laura was looking for someone to help her create more diversity. And diversity does not mean just related to race. It does also mean that related to gender, sexual orientation, age. So now we've expanded it. So now that we also have room for elders to apply.
For seniors, I like that.
And seniors, yeah. I think that's important so that we're creating more of an inclusive space. So that's among the work I've been doing. I did that with ISAR, and ISAR for a time also was giving scholarships. That's going to be something that may also come through in terms of UAC. I mentioned the ICAE, the International Coalition for Astrology Educators. So that's something that we're also putting in more development to create those competencies. I'm a member of OPA. I love OPA in terms of how it's grown as, helping to create more professionalism in astrology. And I think its Career Astrologer is one of the best organs out there in terms of being able to talk about astrology. Member of NCGR as well. That commitment to, the certification process, especially learning to do a chart by hand. I think that's remarkable and a great skill. So, yeah, I believe in the organizations. I also have a mission related to them. Now it's still about diversity, but it's more about cementing better educational quality standards.
I love it. I personally love ISAR. It helped me a lot with just showcasing myself, and I'm so proud that next year I'm part of the panel in February, and I'm going to actually give a talk in Croatian for the diversity of language. There you go. So that's another diversity.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was Butler. What's his first name? Ryan Butler.
Ryan Butler.
Yeah. He's a great guy. He organizes it. So they have like a new approach now. I love it. I highly recommend everybody to join OPA or ISAR or LCGR or all. It's just beautiful. OPA has a beautiful. If you want to, astrology is a business. They always encourage young astrologers and have this business side as well that can help you with that. That was so beautiful. Thank you. I love that. Thank you so much for your time and for your thoughts and for sharing your knowledge and experience. I could talk to you for a long time, but
it's been great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I want to say thanks for everybody, for my girls who joined us here. Thank you so much.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah, where can people find you? Unlockastrology.com is your website. And
That's
what
my
do you have
website.
coming? What are you having
Well,
now coming
I
up?
mean, what am I coming up? Well, I'll have another roster of classes. Right now, I have an absolute beginners class that's in motion. And then I'll do novice astrology, which is going to be learning how to read a chart pretty much from scratch. And then the next level probably will be closer to the spring. I'll have an intermediate astrology where I teach synastry, astrocartography, and predictive astrology. And then there'll be time for NORWAC, and then later in the time here it'll be time for UAC. Tomorrow, if anyone is in New Mexico, in northern New Mexico, I'm going to be giving a talk on Fedaria, a predictive technique that dates back to Hellenistic astrology, but it became much more popular during Islamic and medieval times. So I'll be sharing that.
I didn't ask at the beginning. So, are you more of a traditional? I'm
a hybrid. I'm a hybrid.
Yes. Okay, I like
that.
Yeah,
I'm a hybrid. I'm more informed by the traditional aspects of astrology, but I use the outers. I have warmed up to Chiron. I occasionally will throw in some of the asteroids. Like I'm paying more attention to Ceres. So yeah, I don't. I may be slow to adopt things, but I don't poo-poo too much. I also don't try to include everything, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But I stick more to the traditional techniques.
Yeah. Less is more. Especially when client work, if you overwhelm them with a bunch of information, they don't understand it. They just come out from that conversation with you so confused that you didn't do any good to anybody. That's why. Anyway, another topic. But thank you very much. Oh, and just for the end, please. So, are you a Scorpio or a Sagittarius? What did you find out?
Oh, I am a. So I don't know if you can see it. I'm a Scorpion. So I even have the Scorpion. So I'm 29 degrees, 45 minutes of Scorpio. Uranus is directly opposite to my sun.
I know this new moon.
I don't have anything.
I'm looking at I'm thinking new moon next week and your solar return. There's going to be a huge year ahead of.
Yeah, I have. I don't have anything in Sagittarius except my midheaven, but I'm a Pisces rising with a moon in Leo.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, but thank you for sharing for listeners.
What's funny is that I also discovered that Mark Ruffalo, who played the Hulk, the actor, he's my astro twin. We're born the same day, but he's a moon in Cancer.
Wow, but in the year, same year, just no. Oh yeah, because you're the last. You're last degree of Leo moon, and he's that is amazing. Oh, see, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's just I just wanted to have like a little Sagittarius end of the show.
Yeah, I'm not sad. That's the funny thing. I'm not the Centaur. Although I do say, for those who know astrology, I like to tease Sagittarians. I'm like, I probably have spent more time as a Sagittarius than you have by progression. I was a progressed Sag for 30 years.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes. My angles are also at the 28, 29 degrees almost. So I have been like my whole life at different risings. And
there you go. You got it. You understand, Jasmina.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for joining. If you have any questions, you can find Sam at unlockastrology.com on his Instagram. In Instagram, you are SF Reynolds.
Reynolds. That's right.
Yes. Yeah. So please follow him there as well. Show your support, love.